Hello and welcome. My guest today is Eric Henry, founder of the Henry Law Firm in Ohio. Eric has spent 15 years and more than $50 million in recoveries doing personal injury in the unfashionable way. He moved to a smaller firm 3 times in a row, each time to get closer to his clients. And today they have his personal cell number and he's doing the picking up of the phone himself, which is something that's not very common today. Eric, welcome to the Growth Switch.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Eric, tell us about the beginning of your career. What made you join the legal sector, and what did you see that made you want to move instead of going to the bigger firms to be closer to the clients that you represent today?
Sure. I think I was always drawn to a legal career. People as a child will tell any child that's argumentative or someone that likes to frame an argument as you should be a lawyer. But to me, I always looked at it more as problem solving. And that's really what a legal background and a lawyer does, is problem solves within our complex society, navigates the rules and the procedures for fighting injustices. And that's what attracted me to it, to have that tool book, that playbook, and those tools to be able to right wrongs that I see, from small little things to really catastrophic harms. So when I started practicing, I started with bigger firms, more on the defense side, more on the institutional side. Quite frankly, in law school, that's where they try to push a lot of students. And those seem to be the quote unquote prestigious jobs, working for a big law firm, having these big fancy clients. And I did a little bit of that, but it didn't resonate with who I am. What I found joy and satisfaction and motivation was for helping normal people, helping people who don't have a lot of influence or even a lot of resources, but who've been victims of really serious harms. So to help those people who are not familiar with our system, who seem kind of mystified by how to even go about getting a result for their problem, has been very rewarding. That's something that every morning that I wake up, I get motivated by. And to see the results that we're able to obtain, and to see the gratitude for clients who a lot of times think nothing good is ever going to happen for them, motivates me every single day.
When we were talking earlier, I think one of the interesting parts about even before you went to law school is the different jobs that you did to pay for that law school that probably also shaped your perspective of wanting to help regular people and work help them to demystify law and get the results that they're hoping for. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how those earlier experiences and jobs you had before law sector formed the way you practice today.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I said I like to help regular people because I consider myself a regular person. I have an advanced degree and I have a lot of experience in what I do, but I come from pretty humble roots. A lot of my jobs, I've had a lot of blue collar jobs, working in a warehouse. I've done some roofing work. I've done some construction work. And so those are the people that I tend to resonate with, the people that I can understand, because that's where I come from. And in my practice, both as a lawyer and as a business owner, I don't hold myself out as some sort of end all be all and the final word. I'm a trained professional, here to give professional advice, recommend strategies, and pursue them. But I'm a person just like my clients are people. And so I treat them with respect, and I understand and have some empathy with their life situation. So I think to these relationships without a lot of ego. Sure, sometimes there's times where I have to be tough and tell them this is stern advice because I'm not a cheerleader for you. I'm a counselor and an advocate for you. And sometimes I have to give you advice you don't want to hear. But I do it from a perspective of we're on an equal ground. We're both human beings, and I'm going to use my training and expertise and the skills that I have to get the result for you. And you have to put that trust in me. But at the same time, I don't have an ego that my reality is something that's greater than anyone else's. So that's really a type of dynamic that I really try to bring to the relationship and the communications that I have with my clients.
You started working and you were part of the bigger firm initially. What specifically made you feel like that you were too far removed from your clients that made you to readjust and go more of a solo direction initially?
Well, I really feel at a bigger firm, and particularly what I call the institutional side, which is the side of big business, the side of insurance. Your services as a lawyer are undervalued. You're almost commoditized, where they can replace you if they want, because ultimately they have this power and this influence in the system. So for me to fight on behalf of an insurance company to try to minimize the results or the recovery that a very nice person who's been seriously harmed would get just seemed fundamentally at odds with my constitution. I don't want to be putting in all this hard work to ultimately try to hurt someone who's already been hurt. So that was a divergence between what brings me satisfaction and brings me joy. But really, you always hear about the firms that treat cases like files and not really see the merits of the case, not see the individuals, the people, the real people who are involved. And to me, that's the institutional side of the practice of law. It's big business, and big business is all about commoditizing the work. So to be in a smaller business, to be working with individuals, that is something where we can have that direct communication, and the results that we get are felt and appreciated at a very real level that I never ever experienced on the institutional side of practice.
Definitely makes a lot of difference. Something that you said earlier is that the law school tends to send the future attorneys towards those bigger law firms as almost the default settings. But as we know, law school is really bad at preparing attorneys for the business of law and for those realities. Based on personal characteristics, what do you think maybe is the right fit for somebody based on their experiences and what they want to do to actually go in the bigger law direction? And who do you think should hear your story and recognize that going smaller is a right call for them, just like it was for you?
Yeah, and that is a decision that every person has to make, right? And just like when you're in high school, you might not know what you want to study in college. And then when you get to law school, you might not know what kind of lawyer you want to be. And so getting different experiences, whether you're going to be a transactional type lawyer, whether you're going to be a research lawyer, whether you want to be a litigator, that's going to be a function of your personality. Litigation in general is a competitive field. I was a former athlete, so I'm driven to the competition of litigation. But ultimately, in determining who you want your clients to be, I think that's just going to be a function of who you are. I find that a lot of my peers that maybe come from families of a lot of lawyers or come from families involved in big business, they feel more comfortable and at home in those environments. Me having more of a humble background, not being on the outside looking in of the big business and these big illustrious companies and families, I identify more with the normal folks that I like to stand next to in court. So I think everyone will get a feel for it, and there's no reason to say that a person who comes from a very successful big business background wouldn't find a lot of joy in helping people that don't have a lot of help. But it's really an individualized determination and something for me that once I found that, I haven't looked back, and I felt very satisfied and fulfilled with the type of work that I do.
Do you think it's something you have to explore purely on your own and you need to find that right fit for yourself? Or did you have, throughout your journey, did you have mentors that sort of guided you and prompted you with the right questions so that you can reevaluate those positions for yourself?
Of course, I think any good lawyer is going to have a line of mentors that helped him get to that position. And there's been a lot of people, both law school professors and then attorneys that I worked with, really on both sides. There's many defense attorneys who have been mentors to me to help me to understand where I fit, where I don't fit. I think that's part of the successful practice of law, is developing those relationships and collaborating with your peers, some of whom you will not get along with, but many who have been in the same position that you have and are happy to sort of understand who you are, get a feel for what makes you happy, where you have strengths, and help guide you to find an area where you're going to have success and fulfillment. Some of it's luck of the draw too. You might just wind up at the right firm with good people and feel comfortable there, and that helps shape what your reality is about what brings you satisfaction as an attorney.
Luck can certainly be a factor we can't ignore. I want to take us back to something that you said about the way you work with your clients, that you're not there, to be their cheerleader. You're there to tell them what's the best course of action for them. Is that something that communication style, is that something you had through the beginning of your career, or did you have to develop other stories that you remind yourself of anytime there is a situation where you need to make a point?
I think it's definitely something I've developed over hundreds and thousands of hours of communications and thousands of different clients. Clients like anybody else, there's going to be a lot of diversity in the types of clients that we have and the communication styles that they prefer. But I find in general, direct communication, what I like to kind of refer to as tearing off the band-aid, is by far and away the most effective way to deal with a client. And that means treating them with respect, being honest about the situation, and telling them facts that they may not want to hear about their case. Ultimately, most clients are going to have a strong belief in their case. We're going to have a belief in their case too, because that's why I'm representing them. That's why I sign the case as an attorney, because I believe in the case too. But having a belief in your case, having a confidence in your case has to be rooted in reality. So we can't just drink the Kool-Aid, like I like to say, where we don't believe that the other side has any merit to their defenses or that they can't successfully defend a certain argument or claim. We have to evaluate it objectively and reasonably. And sometimes clients don't want to hear that. So that's a line that I do use with them, as I say, listen, I believe in your case, but you didn't hire me to be your cheerleader. You hired me to be a skilled and experienced attorney who is going to shoot you straight about this. So to give the clients the good, the bad, and the ugly helps them to fully understand the undertaking that we're going through together, and helps them to make good decisions to get the best outcomes in their case.
I think being very clear about the client communications is super important, but unfortunate effect that we sometimes see is that the firms will take any client that walks through the door, and once they are sort of halfway through the process, then that clarity will come out, at which point it might be too late. Because an attorney could be very clear about the success chances of the case, and they might see success in one way. The client might be very unreasonable in what they believe, right? The Kool-Aid analogy. How important is it for you to be selective when you have that level of communications and honesty initially? And do you have basically red flags from the side of the client when you do turn the cases down because you don't think it will be a good fit for you?
Sure. In a small practice, in a plaintiff side personal injury practice such as mine, case selection is incredibly important. And turning down clients, turning away prospective clients is probably the thing about my job that I dislike the most. I hate to tell someone I can't help you. So of course, we're always evaluating cases on numerous criteria when we are considering whether to take it. We're always going to look at the liability. Do we believe we can prove that there's another party who's at fault? We're going to look at the damages, and we're going to look at whether we can prove that the damages the client's suffering from are causally related to the liability argument. And a case could fail on any of those bases. So sometimes it's a client who's been harmed, but they don't have sufficient damages to support a personal injury litigation. Other times it's a harm that might not legally substantiate liability under the law. So for whatever that reason might be, we have to be selective in the cases that we take on, communicate to the client why we might not be taking your case, because it's a liability issue, it's a causation issue, it's a damage issue. But that's our process. And again, honesty is always the best policy. Direct communication, help the client or prospective client to understand how we're looking at their case, can help them to get a better understanding of how our system works and why they may or may not have a case at all.
I think it's also important to highlight that this is especially important in personal injury, because in some other practices of law there are fixed fees, there are other retainers that are not tied to success. And it could be very tempting to a firm to take the client on, even if they don't have good chances for what the client would deem to be a successful outcome, because there's still money to be made. In your practice, you have to be absolutely disciplined, first from that human level, so that you're connecting with the right clients you can help, but also for your business, it would be very detrimental to take somebody who doesn't have a good chances of success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think contingency fees, which is how most personal injury firms operate, are one of the best features of personal injury practice. I think, quite frankly, they're one of the fairest fee structures in the law, because that aligns our interests as attorneys perfectly with the client's interests. Our fee is based on a percentage of the recovery that we can get for the client. Ergo, we are aligned with the client to pursue the biggest recovery possible. And I am jaded about some of the other practices of law, some of the other fields, because you're exactly right. There is a motivation and there is a conflict, an inherent conflict, maybe not a legal conflict, but an inherent conflict between the attorney's desire to build fees at the same time the client's desire to get its outcome. Sometimes the attorney is going to have a motivation to build bigger fees than might not be necessary to get the outcome the client wants. In a personal injury practice, in a contingent fee practice, those interests align. We are both pursuing the same result, and we will both share in the same result or lack thereof. So, to go back to client selection, that's often a line that I tell a client when I determine we can't take a case is, I'm not doing you any good if I take your case only to lose it, or take your case and don't have success, because we're both in the same situation with nothing to show for that. So when I evaluate your case and don't believe that it has the merits or the facts to be successful, it's because I don't believe that I can get you that result that you want as your goal. But ultimately, structuring our fee arrangement in a situation where our fee is contingent upon the outcome, number one, it eliminates any resource expenditure on the client's part. You don't have to be a wealthy person to hire a personal injury attorney to pursue that claim. And number two, you can be convinced that your attorney is working to get the best possible outcome and the best possible valuation, because that's how your attorney is earning his fee.
It becomes a true partnership because everybody's interests are aligned. Eric, when we were talking earlier, one of the things that you said is also part of your motivation to go smaller was to be closer to the actual work, not to the business side of things. But of course, as you're running your own firm, there is a great deal of many other hats and responsibilities you have to wear. What has been maybe some of the challenges and how you overcame when it came to not just doing the work, but also creating the environment when you can actually assist the clients at the right fit and making sure that they're taken care of while managing the financial and other considerations?
Yeah, absolutely. I started my firm so I could be close to my clients. And then now as my firm grows and we've had year over year growth over 6 years, we are getting to a medium-sized small business. And so there are business considerations that are a part of my day-to-day work that are quite time consuming. So that is something that I have to balance, where I'm still focused as a lawyer, where my skill set, my training, my expertise lies, but also making sure that we're operating as a business that's optimized from a business perspective, but is also designed and having that latitude as a business owner to design a firm that does all the things that my dream firm I would want it to do. And that starts with client experience, to make sure that as we work our clients' cases through our system, that they're getting informed, that they're getting positive feedback, that they have the information and the updates that they need, and that at the conclusion of the case, they felt they've been very well taken care of. But also goes into the pursuit of new business, evaluating potential cases, working with the various partners and vendors that we do, and always looking to implement and improve our technologies and our systems. My main key word when it comes to that is efficiency. So always looking to build efficiencies in our practice so that we are accomplishing our goal and our clients' goals in the most efficient and productive way possible.
How does the balance for you goes there between being very personable and letting clients have your personal number, but at the same time incorporating maybe AI and other elements that make you efficient? So how do you manage to balance the two?
I think it is a balance. I think if a law firm, especially a small law firm, a plaintiff side law firm, isn't utilizing AI, they're not operating to the industry standard right now. I think it's a really important and effective tool that we do utilize. But at the same time, we're a human-facing business. We are a personal service, a professional service. And so we want to balance the AI efficiencies that we build in case management or data analysis, along with the human touch of communicating these findings, communicating our analysis to our client. And so ultimately, we're always going to be human effort first. It's always going to be based on a meeting or a phone call or a court appearance or a deposition with our clients. But we can build deeper analysis, faster analysis by using AI tools, and improve communication, improve the regularity and the speed of communication by using some of these tools. So yes, we look to adopt and implement AI in the fullest capacity, but it will never replace our relationship with our client and the work product that we ultimately do to get their cases resolved or taken to trial.
I think that's a very good reminder because AI is a tool and it should not be, like you said, a replacement of that human connection between the lawyer and the client. It should be something that accelerates everything else so that there could be better connections and the human connection with the people working with each other inside the firm as well, that actually makes for a better experience. You mentioned that marketing function is something that you had to develop on the business side of running your practice as well. And being selective about the clients that you take on, making sure that you're aligned, you believe in their case. It is important to have a good number of conversations coming in. Throughout the years, what has been the biggest driver of having the right type of clients with good potential cases come through the door for you?
Well, I guess from a marketing perspective, we're always looking to be holistic in our approaches. So our best sources of cases are our word of mouth referrals from former clients, repeat clients, friends, families, contacts, and associates in the community that recognize us and recognize the work that we do. There are 1,000 different lawyer marketing SKUs and companies that want to sell leads and want to do different things that improve marketing. Most of them are garbage, to be honest with you. Sometimes we'll find a select partner that we do think is effective and we'll use that to get in front of our clients. I get a lot of referrals from other attorneys. So developing my relationship in the legal community, helping other attorneys who don't practice in the area that I do to understand that I'm here as a resource to help the clients that they can't help has been a really effective driver of growth for us. And that's something that we're always looking to do is expand our web of resources and contacts in the legal field, because ultimately a lot of potential clients might have a problem and they might call an attorney that they know or an attorney they've worked with before, and that might have nothing to do with that attorney's practice area. So by having that relationship, the attorney knows we're good at what we do, that we will treat that client well and get a good result, is a really good driver of growth, because he or she's going to pick up the phone and let us know this client needs help.
You touched upon something there, is building that network, being known as the resource. I think creating content now is more important than ever, because many attorneys try to be best kept secret, but that's counterproductive, because by putting good information out there, they make it easier for the clients to be reassured that they are the right fit for them, and they also make it easier for other attorneys to potentially find them, see them as an expert, whether it's something that has to do with the local matter or specific type of law or other case. So I think it's more important than ever to create that type of content. For you building your network, and whether it's other attorneys or with the clients, what has worked for you in terms of the different maybe content styles and other things that you've done that moved your message further away?
I agree with you 100%. I think in the modern practice of law, content creation is critical, because ultimately what we're trying to do is help a potential client, to understand that they can trust us with something that's very important. It's a very serious matter, and you have to have trust and confidence in the attorney that you're going to choose. But how can you know whether you can trust someone? Have confidence in someone where you have essentially a cold call relationship. So having those resources online and in social media where they can hear me talk, they can learn about what I'm about, what our process is. I think that helps people to understand and feel comfortable with my practice. We believe in reviews. We always ask former clients to leave reviews, because those are trust indicators and helps them to go see what are their former clients saying about them. And then being a resource, providing analysis of legal issues that our clients might be experiencing, putting them on our website or on a blog. So when they're looking up a question or a problem or an issue, they see that we know that this is an issue and we've addressed it. We can't give legal advice in general, because every case is specific, but to give them some resources to help to understand and frame what their problem is, so they're better armed to talk to an attorney I think is another way to build trust and confidence that our firm is has that expertise in the area where they need help.
As the saying goes, show, don't tell. If you can show that you've done the body of work and you discuss different cases, it's more trust building for a potential client than a firm just claims that they've done the work behind the scenes. So I think it's a very visible differentiator. You mentioned earlier that throughout your journey, you've seen some marketing partners that were good and unfortunately a lot that didn't really deliver on the promises. What are the criteria that is important for you based on those experiences to judge if a marketing partner is somebody reliable or if there are red flags that you're looking for to not waste your time and money with somebody?
Yeah, some of the marketing partners and marketing vendors, I should say, that are out there, they're clearly just in a numbers game. They might make unrealistic promises to try to get people to click and give them their information, but all they really care about is how many people can they quote unquote sign up, or how many people can they deliver to an attorney as a lead. That type of volume referral practice I don't think is effective, and I think it's confusing to clients. I think it's misleading to clients. So when we have worked with marketing partners, what we look for is someone who's going to put out a clear and a fair message, someone who is not going to be spamming our prospective clients, and someone who is looking to connect them with us early on, whether they have a case or they don't, but connect us so we can discuss their legal issues, as opposed to trying to fill out some one size fits all form that's going to be sent to 50 different attorneys, and then the client's going to be buried for the next 6 months by spamming and cold calls and things like that.
It's a very interesting trend that in a lot of industries, marketing as a sector definitely prone to this. So are other professional services. You can tell somebody's experience by the guarantees they make. Somebody who is new to the market often will make certain claims of success, but the more experienced somebody, the more likely they will say, might not work out, we will do our best, those are probabilities. There are steps that we have to take, and then we will see. And this is usually a pretty good judge if somebody's actually done the work, or to your point, if it's just a churn game for them and they just looking to make the promises for the sake of bringing the numbers up in the short term.
I agree. Marketing, like law, is not something you should be making guarantees in. We don't make guarantees to our clients. We assess probabilities and likelihoods, but it is a sign of inexperience if you say, we're definitely going to get you this result, because that might not be the case. And you talk about building trust. The first time you make a promise or a guarantee that you can't uphold, you've lost all your trust and all your credibility. So an experienced attorney, and I know the same as in marketing, but an experienced attorney is using all that training experience to inform the client on likely outcomes, on likely defenses, on critical evidence, and then assessing a strategy from there. But it's not a strategy based on guarantees. It's a strategy based on best practices.
Certainly. Eric, if somebody wants to learn more about your firm and the work that you do, where should they go online to find the information?
We try to keep our webpage updated with information about our firm and information about our practice areas. So if someone's trying to learn about some of the information about their case, as well as our process, that's on our webpage at erickhenrylaw.com. We also maintain an active social media presence on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, maybe a few others. But social media, I find, is a lot more quick hitting content that's designed to sort of be ingested in 30 seconds. The more deep form information we have on our website. And we always welcome direct contact. Even if someone just wants to email me a question and say, hey, what do I do about this? It may or may not lead to a case. It may not have anything to do with a case, but I try to be a resource for people who need the legal advice and guidance. And so I always welcome direct contacts as well.
Appreciate it. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.